After you've done all you can. After you've done all you can. Oh, after you've done all you can. Oh, after you've done all you can. After you've gone through the storm, and after you've gone through the rain, after you've gone through the hurt, and after you've gone through the pain, oh, after you've done all you can. Oh, after you've done all you can. Oh, after you've gone through the storms, and after you've gone through the rain. Prayed and cried, prayed and cried. You prayed and cried. You prayed, you prayed, you prayed and cried. After you've gone through the storm, and after you've gone through the rain, after you've gone through the hurt, oh, after you've gone through the pain, oh, after you've done all you can, you just stand. Whoa, you just stand. I woke up to that song in my mind. Now, I know Mr. McClurkin has several controversies going on with himself, but whoever wrote that song, whether it be Mr. McClurkin or someone else, that song still has power. It still has effectiveness in it. And so, first of all, I want to say good morning to each and every one of you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I want to encourage you to keep standing. So that's the first thing I want to say to you today. And we do want to continue. We started on this weekend, but we do want to continue to pray for the families that have been affected by several mass shootings. The one in Gilroy, California, El Paso, Texas, Dayton, Ohio. There was also one in Chicago. They are not calling it just a drive-by, to my understanding. And if you read the book, reading is fundamental. If you read the book, Everything You Love Will Burn. It was a book we were reading one of our other seasons back, where they were going into the white supremacists, and how the white supremacists openly admitted in this book that they traveled to the black neighborhoods in Baltimore and Chicago, and they are the ones performing some of these drive-bys for practice. All right? So when you hear Chicago and when you hear drive-by, I don't want you to automatically assume that it is black on black crime that's going on, because white supremacists have admitted that yes, they do go into the black neighborhood and they do perform drive-bys as target practice. So we all need to be a little more mindful, a little bit more vigilant about how we characterize things that are happening. All right? So good morning to each and every one of you. This is Monday Motivation. I'm going to step away from the camera for about 5 seconds because I have to turn on another camera. I'll be back. All right. So, I'm back. So this weekend was a very, very busy weekend. We got a chance to check out a talk about women's reproductive health. And if you have not seen that talk, I encourage you to check it out today. I encourage you to go to our Daring Dialogues page. If you're on Periscope, if you're already on Daring Dialogues, you can just scroll down and you will see part 1 and part 2 of that talk. Very, very powerful information. It was particularly geared around Black women's health and looking at what happened to Henrietta Lacks and how we're still using her cells today to do research all the way through to the present time. And they talked about women's health in general. They talked about maternal health, pregnancy, lots of different topics. They talked about some of the issues surrounding abortion. So it's a very, very good talk held by someone who is in the medical profession and has been doing research for the last 20 years on Black women's health. So it is a very, very powerful 2-part series there. I think she talked for maybe about an hour total between the 2 videos. I did have to delete the 3rd part, the Q&A session, because we had a person who was objecting to being filmed, even though this was a public event at a public place, and you should expect someone is either going to film or photograph. But for the sake of their conscience and for their peace of mind, I deleted the Q&A section, which was also good. So I'm sorry about that, but at least we do still have the teaching sections up. All right. The other thing I want to remind people of, it is August. All right. It is awesome August. That's all I'm calling August. You all can say whatever you want to say about August, but the Lord told me awesome August, so that's what I'm going to be hashtagging. Awesome August all month, because I shall have whatsoever I say. As it gets into the fall, all right, I want to put another plug in and reminder to those of you who are starting back school and things of that nature, children, starting school, all of that. I want you to make sure that you're doing some health checkups. Usually at the beginning of a school year, children are coming home with lots of coughs and colds and sneezes and all of those things. Make sure that you are getting your child's body in a place of immunity. So that means, vitamins, all of that, proper clothing, covering, all of that. Make sure that you're doing that at the top of the school year. Make sure you're taking vitamins, okay? Real ones, real ones, real ones. Hashtag real ones. I would encourage you, if you have been feeling a little sluggish, a little tired, to ask your doctor to give you a full blood test, a full panel blood test and minerals, vitamins and minerals test to make sure that you aren't deficient. All right. So as we continue to go into this sort of last half of the year, stay on top of your health. Don't get lazy. I know we're going to get into the cooler months soon, and people's workout regimens are going to slow down and all of that. Right. So I want to encourage you to keep yourself active. Do what you can to keep yourself active. Make sure you are taking your vitamins and your minerals. You're keeping your immune system covered. And if you are feeling a little on the weak and sluggish side, I do think that you probably should consult your doctor and ask for a vitamin and minerals test. You have to ask. They don't automatically give them. Hint, hint. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to share before we go into all our readings today. Today we are reading All Things Oprah. I know some people are like, why is this lady still on Oprah Winfrey? I'm here because the Lord told me to read her book, so that's why we're talking about Oprah today. All right? There's lots of important lessons. Lots of important lessons. You asked about low potassium. Okay. So make sure that if your doctor is giving you some specific orders about how you can bring your potassium up, make sure you pay attention to it. Also, there are some really good basic nutrition books out. You can check out at your local library that actually talks about all of the vitamins and minerals and what you can do to increase them, what kinds of foods you need to be eating as well. All right. But you first got to know what you're deficient in. And oftentimes getting a minerals and vitamins test done will let you know the areas that you are deficient in. Your doctor can also help you with, for example, for me, because I had vitamin D deficiency, he was also able to help me figure out what amount of vitamin D, I needed to be taking. All right. That's another reason why it's helpful to see a doctor, because you might start taking something, but you might not be taking enough of it, or you might be taking too much of it. So let's talk today about what I know for sure. I want to read some more of these. I believe we are going to get through this particular book today, mainly because I'm not reading the whole thing to you. I'm just choosing several sections that have stuck out to me. And then I want to talk to you from her younger life. So I have another book. And then I want to talk to you about leaving a legacy. What kind of legacy are you leaving? So I'll start here with being born at the right time. Whenever I hear Paul Simon's song, Born at the Right Time, I think he must be singing about me. I came into the world in 1954 in Mississippi, a state with more lynchings than any other in the Union, at a time when being a black man walking down the street minding your business could make you subject to any white person's accusation or whimsy. A time when having a good job meant working for a nice white family that at least did not call you the N-word to your face. A time when Jim Crow reigned, segregation prevailed, and black teachers, themselves scarcely educated, were forced to use ragged textbooks discarded from white schools. Yet the same year I was born, a season of change began. In 1954, the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that black people had the right to equal education. The ruling created hope that life could be better for black folks everywhere. I've always believed free will is a birthright, part of the universe's design for us. And I know that every soul yearns to be free. In 1997, while I was preparing to play Seth in the movie Beloved, I arranged a trip along a portion of the Underground Railroad. I wanted to connect with what it felt like to be a slave wandering through the woods, making my way north to a life beyond slavery, a life where being free at its most basic level meant not having a master telling you what to do. But when I was blindfolded, taken into the woods, and left alone to contemplate which direction led to the next safe house, I understood for the first time that freedom isn't about not having a master. Freedom is about having a choice. In the film, Seth explains what it was like to make the trek to freedom. Looked like I loved my children more after we got here, she says. Or maybe I knew as long as we were in Kentucky, they really weren't mine to love. Sometimes I hear my boys, hear them laughing a laugh I ain't never heard. First I get scared somebody might hear them and get mad. Then I remember that if they laugh that hard till it hurt, that'd be the only hurt they have all day. She also says I'd wake up in the morning and decide for myself what to do with the day, as if thinking, imagine me decide. During the shooting, I said those lines over and over, feeling the force they carried. In the years since, Seth's words have remained with me. I rejoice in them daily. Sometimes they're my very first thought before I get out of bed. I can wake up in the morning and decide for myself what to do with the day. I'm not a slave. Imagine me decide. What a gift that is. What I know for sure is that we all need to cherish that gift, to revel in it rather than take it for granted. After the hundreds of stories I've heard of atrocities around the globe, I know that if you're a woman born in the United States, you're one of the luckiest women in the world. Take your good fortune, live your life to its highest calling. Understand that the right to choose your own path is a sacred privilege. Use it and dwell in possibility. She's got a point there. Because some countries are just now for the first time allowing women to leave the house without a male with them. And some countries are just now allowing women to drive by themselves or to drive, period. So in that respect, we are not just lucky, but we are blessed to be in the United States with all of its flaws and with all of the things that still need to change. Because the United States is not off the hook. Yes, really, Deacon Henry. Yeah, there are some countries women are not allowed to drive. Yep. Yeah. Just think on that. Some people might find it ironic that I've never been much of a TV watcher. I don't find it ironic either, Oprah. You and I have that in common. Also being blindfolded. Aside from old reruns of the Andy Griffith Show, I stopped regularly tuning in to sitcoms the night Mary Tyler Moore went off the air. That's a long time. At home, I skip the late night news because I don't want to take in all that negative energy right before sleep. And on vacation, I seldom have a TV in my bedroom. Makes sense. On days when I do flip through the channels, it's almost certain I'll find at least one show that involves sexual exploitation or violence against women. In my early days on air, I was guilty of doing irresponsible television without even knowing it, all in the name of, quote, entertainment. One day, my staff and I booked a husband who'd been caught in an adulterous sex scandal. And right there on our stage before millions of viewers, the wife heard for the first time that her partner had been unfaithful. It's a moment I have never forgotten. The humiliation and despair on that woman's face made me ashamed of myself for putting her in that position. Wow. Oprah seems to have more of a conscience than some preachers, but that's another sermon for another time. Right then, I decided that I'd never again be a part of a show that demeans, embarrasses, or diminishes another human being. I know for sure that what we dwell on is who we become. As a woman thinks, so is she. I wonder where she got that from. If we absorb hour upon hour of images and messages that don't reflect our magnificence, hello, Black people, it's no wonder we walk around feeling drained of our very life force. If we tune in to dozens of acts of brutality every week, no wonder we're seeing brutal acts of brutality now in real life. Every week, every day. It should not surprise us that our children see violence as an acceptable way to resolve conflict, because that's the messaging that's getting transmitted to them. Acceptable ways to resolve conflict, acceptable ways to be in relationships with other people. Become the change you want to see. Those are words I live by. Instead of belittling, uplift. Instead of demolishing, rebuild. Instead of misleading, light the way so that all of us can stand on higher ground. Wow. In my 20s, Oprah writes, I attended a prayer breakfast in Washington, D.C. that was sponsored by the National Black Caucus. I had the good fortune to hear a most eloquent preacher from Cleveland, the Reverend Otis Moss Jr., a man who would go on to become a mentor and friend. Now, if you don't know Reverend Otis Moss Jr., I suggest you go and look at some of his sermons. Yeah. And his son as well, I think. Otis Moss the second, I think. Very, very, very powerful men in the Word of God. That day, Reverend Moss told a story that abides with me till now. His father, a poor sharecropper, worked all his life to raise and care for his family, suffering the same sort of indignities and humiliations that generations before him had long endured. Even in his 50s, he finally had a chance to do what those generations never had: cast his vote in an election. On election day, he rose before dawn dressed in his best suit, the one he wore to weddings and funerals, and prepared to walk to the polls to vote against a racist Georgia governor in favor of a moderate. 6 miles he walked. When he got there, he was told he was in the wrong place and was sent to another location. He walked another 5 or 6 miles and was met with the same denial before being sent to a third voting place. When he arrived at the third location, they told him, "Boy, you are a little late. The polls just closed." After walking all day, covering more than 18 miles, he returned home, exhausted and depleted, never having experienced the joy of voting. Otis Moss Sr. told this story to anyone who would listen and lived in great anticipation of his next chance to cast his vote. He died before the next election. He never got the chance to choose. So now I do. And every time I cast a ballot, I choose not only for myself, but also for Otis Moss Sr. and for the countless others who wanted to but couldn't. I cast a ballot for everybody who came before me and gave their life's energy so that yours and mine could be a force that matters today. Sojourner Truth, speaking at the Women's Rights Convention in Akron, Ohio in 1851, said, "If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. We'd see amazing changes if women took to the polls en masse." Recent voting statistics are embarrassing and disrespectful to our female heritage, to every woman who had no voice but hoped someday her daughters might be heard. In 2008, only about 2/3 of eligible female voters bothered to cast a vote. And remember, the 2000 presidential election was decided by only 537 votes. I know for sure we ought to respect ourselves and our forefathers enough to be counted. Whew. Let it marinate. My. Somebody need to send Oprah an offering. We're a country that spends 95% of our healthcare dollars on treating illness and less than 5% on staying well and preventing it. How mixed up is that? The paradigm needs to change, and the change begins with how we choose to see ourselves as either purveyors of health or conveyors of disease. Let me take a sip right there. Woo, child, blessed be. The ultimate in being healthy is to operate at full throttle, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I'm also going to add to that intellectually and relationally. It's being alert, feeling alive, and connected. And if you look at your life as a circle in all its aspects, family, finance, relationships, work, as sections of it, you'll see that if one part is malfunctioning, it will affect the whole. There have been many times in my life when I put far too much emphasis on work and not nearly enough on taking care of me. There's a huge difference between attending to the needs of your personality or your ego and caring for your true self. Making that distinction can save you a lot of wasted time. This I know for sure. You got to be in touch with your mind, body, and spirit to live the life you were meant to. When all three are completely engaged, you're able to fulfill your potential on earth. It's a decision you make to pursue what you were called here to do and not just to meander through your days. The average life expectancy for an American woman is 80 years old. That's a prediction, not a promise. Somebody just need to write that down. That's a prediction, not a promise. What you do today creates every tomorrow. To own the abundant life that's waiting for you, you got to be willing to do the real work. Woo! Not your job, not your career profile, but heeding your spirit, which is whispering its greatest desires for you. You've got to get silent sometimes to hear it. Hashtag University of Quiet. And check in regularly. You must feed your mind with thoughts and ideas that open you to new possibilities. When you stop learning, you cease to grow. And subconsciously, you tell the universe, you've done it all. Nothing new for you, so why are you here? My God. You can't pretend that your body will function forever, no matter how you treat it. Your body wants to move. It wants to be fed well. If you're sprinting through life as though it's a race you have to win, you need to slow down and schedule some rest. Because the truth is, you've already won. You're still here with another chance to get it right, to do better and be better, starting now. Ooh, Lord. I've got 3 more to read, and then we're going to close the book on what I know for sure. I encourage everybody, get this book. Some of us need every single lesson in here. I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to encourage you to get the book. Years ago on my show, a young mother shared her frustration with getting her son to go to bed. Her son was 3 years old and ruling the house. He wanted to sleep in her bed. He refused even to lie down on his own. And the more the mother insisted, the more the child resisted, yelling and screaming until he literally dropped from exhaustion. We showed a tape of the two of them battling it out. When our expert, Dr. Stanley Turecki, finished watching, he said something that made the hairs on my arm stand up. Nothing happens until you decide. The reason this 3-year-old boy didn't sleep in his own bed was that his mother had not decided it would happen. When she did, the child would go to his bed. He might cry and scream and rant until he fell asleep, but he would eventually realize that his mother had made up her mind. Well, I knew Dr. Turecki was speaking about a 3-year-old, but I also knew for sure this brilliant piece of advice applied to many other aspects of life. Relationships, career moves, weight issues, everything depends on your decisions. When you don't know what to do, my best advice is to do nothing until clarity comes. Getting still, being able to hear your own voice and not the voices of the world, quickens your clarity. Once you decide what you want, make a commitment to that decision. One of my favorite quotes is from mountaineer W.H. Murray. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issue from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. I have learned a deep respect for one of Ghost's couplets. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Begin it. Begin it! My emphasis, by the way. Boldness has genius, power, and I won't say the word because I don't believe in it. but I do believe that boldness has genius, power, and miracles in it. Always got to replace a word. Make a decision and watch your life move forward. In January of 2009, I appeared on the cover of O twice. Two versions of me standing side by side, a before and after. In one image, the before, I was in good shape. In the after, I was overweight. I had the confidence to show these photos of myself because I knew I wasn't alone. An estimated 66% of American adults are either overweight or obese, and almost nobody's happy about it. That cover stirred an outpouring of emotion and an avalanche of support. One of the most memorable responses I got was this email from a friend. Here's how I see your weight. It is your smoke detector, and we're all burning up the best part of our lives. I never thought of it that way before, but it was a true aha moment. My weight was an indicator warning, a flashing light blaring my disconnection from the center of myself. What I now know for sure is that for me, weight is a spiritual issue, not a food issue. Marianne Williamson struck a nerve when she sent this email. Your weight is really an invitation to your best life. All those years of diets doomed to fail, I thought weight was the barrier. I told myself I had a weight problem, instead of looking at my out of balance existence and how I use food to repress the facts. Oh Lord, let me take my drink. I once co-authored a book with Bob Greene called Make the Connection. The title was his idea. Even while writing my part, which involved sharing my frustrated journal entries about being fat, I would often say to him, remind me again, what's the connection? I did learn from Bob that my overeating wasn't about potato chips, that I needed to peel back the layers of my addiction to food and figure out what was eating me. Obviously, I didn't peel deeply enough. But now I know that the connection is loving, honoring, and protecting everything about yourself. Bob has often said to me, your weight is often tied to your feelings of unworthiness. For years, I vehemently disagreed with him, saying, listen, Bob Greene, I'm not one of those people who think they don't deserve what they have. I've worked hard for everything I own. But as I move along the spiritual path to permanently resolving and managing the weight issue, I now see that a sense of unworthiness can come in many forms. I've been an overachiever since I was 3 years old. For years, I felt the need to show that I belonged here. The need to prove my worth. I worked hard. I got A's. I won speaking contests and earned scholarships. I was in my mid-30s before I realized that just being born makes you worthy enough to be here. I had nothing to prove. For most of us who overeat, extra pounds correspond to either unresolved anxieties, frustrations, and depressions, which all come down to fear that we have not worked through. We submerge the fear in food instead of feeling it and dealing with it. We repress it all with offerings from the fridge. If you can conquer the fear, you'll fly. That's for sure. Let your life awaken in you, whatever your challenge. Overeating, overindulging in any substance or activity, the loss of a relationship, money, position. Let it be an open door to your holiest revelations about yourself, an invitation to your best life. Last lesson I'm going to share from Oprah's book, which is actually the last lesson in the book. It reads, in the 3rd grade, I learned the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I loved those words. I wrote them on everything and carried them around in my book satchel. I was a good deed doer. At one point, I even thought I was going to be a missionary. Every Sunday, I would go to church, sit second pew to the right, take out a notepad, and write down everything the minister said. At school the next day, I would recite the sermon on the playground. I called it Monday morning devotion. The other 8-year-olds would see me coming and say, "Here comes that preacher." Back then, when the Progressive Missionary Baptist Church was trying to raise money for the poor children of Costa Rica, I started a campaign. I was going to collect more money than anyone else. I gave up my lunch money and convinced my classmates to do the same. It was all part of the principle of do unto others that I live by. Then, in the 5th grade, I ran into some problems. There was a girl in my class who didn't like me, so I went around school talking about her. One of my friends pointed out that if I believed in doing unto others and was talking about this girl, chances are she was talking about me too. "I don't care," I replied, "because I don't like her anyway." For a long time, whenever I would say or do something that went against my better self, I would try to justify it to myself. What I did not understand is that all of our actions, both good and bad, come back to us. But eventually I learned that we receive from the world what we give to the world. I understand it from physics as the 3rd law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It is the essence of what Eastern philosophers called karma. In The Color Purple, the character Celie explained it to Mr. Everything you try to do to me, already done to you. Your actions revolve around you as surely as the earth revolves around the sun. This is why when people say they're looking for happiness, I ask, what are you giving to the world? It's like the wife who once appeared on my show wondering why her relationship with her husband had broken down. She kept saying, "He used to make me so happy. He doesn't make me happy anymore." What she couldn't see was that she was the cause of her own effect. Church out. Happiness is never something you get from other people. The happiness you feel is in direct proportion to the love you are able to give. My God, people would just get that right there. I feel like shouting. If you think something is missing in your life or you're not getting what you deserve, remember that there's no yellow brick road. You lead life. It doesn't lead you. So what comes into your life when you spend extra? See what comes into your life when you spend extra time with your children. Let go of your anger with your boss or your coworker and see what starts getting returned to you. Q's organ. Be loving to yourself and others and see what kind of love begins to be reciprocated to you. This rule works every time. Can I tell you, she's right. Every time, whether or not you are aware of it. It occurs in little things, big things, and the biggest things. Today, I try to do well and be well with everyone I encounter. I make sure to use my life for goodwill because I know for sure that what I think, what I say, what I do, everything will be returned to me. And the same is true for you. The other day, I was in my nice little quiet time, and the Lord said 3 things to me, and I'm gonna give them to you. This is gonna be free 99 today. I'm finna help somebody's whole entire life. Woo! Hashtag free 99. So this was the 3-pronged lesson that he gave to me. He said, number 1, don't be stingy. Number 2, don't be stupid. And number 3, don't be stagnant. That's really easy to remember, right? Don't be stingy, don't be stupid, and don't be stagnant. Here's how to not be stingy, okay? Here are 5 people that unlock wealth in your life. 5. Somebody can put the number 5 up there if you're listening. 5 people that unlock wealth in your life. Somebody not gonna like the last one. I already know. You're gonna buck against it, but I promise you, if you give to these 5 people, it will unlock wealth in your life. I'm a living witness, okay? It happens to me regularly, every time. All right? 5 people that unlock wealth in your life. The homeless, the poor, which are not synonymous, by the way, because there are lots of working homeless people. All right? And there's lots of working poor people that are not homeless. All right? The homeless, give to them. The poor, give to them. The widow, give to her. The orphan, give to them. And your hater, find something to do for people who don't like you. I know it runs contrary to everything the world tells you to do to your haters. It tells you to cut them off. It tells you to run away from them. But I promise you, if you find somebody who really dislikes you and you decide to do something good for them, I'm telling you, it will unlock wealth in your life. That was free 99. Now, somebody would charge you $399 for what I just told you. But I'm trying to help somebody today, all right? Don't be stupid. How do we not be stupid? I'm going to give you 4 ways to not be stupid. Yeah. Oh, Lord. I feel the presence of Jesus. Because somebody's finna get free. Don't be stupid. What are 4 ways to not be stupid in this hour? Save your money. Save your money. Earn some money. Invest some money. And be willing to sell some things. Save, earn, invest, and sell. Save, earn, invest, and sell. Save, earn, invest, and sell. That was free 99. And the last one. Don't be stingy. Don't be stupid. And don't be stagnant. How can we not be stagnant or stunted? Here's what you can spend on. Spend your life on. Yep, somebody not gonna like this one either. It's okay though, you'll live. All right? Don't be stagnant. Spend your life on experiences that matter. Spend your life on experiences that matter. Don't spend your life on lots of frivolous things. Spend it on experiences that matter. Spend it on travel. Travel. Go see the world. If you've never been out of your home state, man, I grew up in a little town in South Florida, and rarely did we go out of that town. It was not until I took a college experience trip where I went from South Florida to Tallahassee. That was the first time I had ever been truly out of my region. Like for me, because we didn't have a whole lot of money, the furthest we would go outside of our town was Fort Lauderdale. And that was a 45-minute drive, and we thought we were doing something. I mean, we thought it was a whole new world, right? But when I went to Tallahassee, I made a decision to go to school there because it was my first time away from home where I actually slept and I did not hear gunshots. Imagine that. Just let that sink in. It was the first time that I had been in an environment where I was not hearing a gunshot, where I was not hearing a police noise, sirens, where I was not hearing ambulance, where I was not hearing a trauma helicopter overhead because they were transporting somebody to Jackson Memorial Hospital for gunshot wounds. Spend on experiences. Spend on travel. Please get out and see the world. Get out and know that there are people beyond your little square, your little neighborhood, your little city, town, state, circle. All right? Experience and travel and spend your life on people you love and who love you back. All right? Spend your life on people who love you and who you love back. That's how you don't become stagnant. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Henry, I just erased it all. I'm sorry. But I'll put it back up. All right? Or better yet, inbox me on Facebook. Shantae Charles, inbox me and I will, well, here you go. That's my little note from my journal. You can screenshot that. I had to rewrite it. Okay. So don't be stingy. Don't be stupid. Don't be stagnant. I want to share, I know I'm running out of time here. What shall I choose? What shall I choose? I want to share this about Oprah and her growing up life, because many times people can see what you have or see where you are now and not realize that you actually went through some things to actually get where you are. And I know a lot of assumptions are made about Oprah Winfrey. So we're going to help us all out. This one's called Growing Up. And I'll just show you the images first before I start reading. This is actually a really excellent book. I would recommend that parents get this, especially if you have a talker in your house. You have a talker, you have a child that you know is going to be doing something in public speaking in the future. Please get them this book, all right? Gift it to them. So let me read this to you. Life with Hattie Mae, her grandmother, even though they didn't have any money, was good for Oprah. Hattie Mae was supportive and loving. She encouraged her granddaughter to do her very best. She provided structure and routine to Oprah's life, which is important when you are a child and especially important when you have goals and dreams like Oprah did. When it came to reading and writing, Oprah flourished so much she was able to skip ahead a grade. The future was looking bright. But when Oprah was 6, Hattie Mae became ill and could no longer take care of her granddaughter. Oprah had to move north to Milwaukee and live with her mother, who had taken work as a maid. In the time since her mother had left, she had given birth to another daughter named Patricia, who she seemed to love more than she loved Oprah. When Oprah arrived at Milwaukee boarding house where her mother lived, she felt alone and abandoned. The house was run down and unfamiliar. It was cold. Oprah missed Hattie Mae terribly. She barely knew her mother. She wanted to return to her grandmother to the farm. She would even wear a sack dress if it meant she could go back home. 6-year-old Oprah tried to reason with herself. After all, she thought, at least she had a place to sleep. Many people didn't have a place to sleep. But then came an unimaginable turn of events. On her first night at the boarding house, Oprah was told that she was not allowed to sleep inside because her skin was too dark. Her half-sister Patricia had much lighter skin, so she was afforded the comfort of a roof over her head. But 6-year-old Oprah was sent to sleep outside on the porch alone. Oprah tried really hard to make the best of her time with her mother, but it wasn't the same as being with Hattie Mae. Vernita hardly knew her daughter, having left her behind at a young age, and Vernita was working long, exhausting hours without much pay. Vernita didn't have time to spend with Oprah on reading and writing like Hattie Mae did, and she didn't much care that her daughter seemed to have a special gift. There would be no more preaching at church, and no more impressing the older ladies in the front row who called her the little preacher. Instead, Oprah found herself in terrible situations. The people in her life, both family members and friends of her family, were not nice to Oprah. They abused her and treated her horribly. Oprah felt so alone, she had a hard time concentrating on the things that used to make her happy back on the farm with Hattie Mae. Soon, Vernita grew impatient with trying to raise 2 daughters and worked long hours cleaning houses. Oprah's prayers were about to be answered. She was temporarily sent to live with her father, Vernon. He was much more supportive of Oprah and had more time for her. He encouraged her growth in reading and writing and speaking, and he was strict in a good way. But it wouldn't last for long. Back and forth, Oprah was shuttled between Vernon and Vernita for nearly a decade. She craved stability, craved just one place she could call home. Oprah then began her high school education under Vernita's parenting in Milwaukee, but was constantly getting into trouble. Most teenagers argue with their parents, but Oprah and Vernita took arguing to a new level. Oprah had even figured out how to steal money from her mother so she could try to imitate the lifestyles of the richer girls at school. She was still made fun of for being poor, and she would do anything to make the name-calling and harassment end, even if she knew deep down that stealing was wrong. Soon, Vernita threw up her hands and sent 14-year-old Oprah back to live with her father permanently in Tennessee. And these are some of the book illustrations. High school under the guidance of her father proved to be just what Oprah needed. He was strict, which was good. He made sure she got good grades and that she wasn't letting drama with friends or boys get in the way of her studies. He even made Oprah read one book a week separate from her school assignments and write a report on it. But it helped Oprah become an even stronger reader and writer, and maybe most importantly, a more independent thinker. It was at this point that Oprah read a book that would change her outlook on life forever. Maya Angelou's autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, spoke to Oprah, and the theme of a young black girl's experience growing up in America was like a mirror reflecting back on her teenage self. This book came to her at a time when she saw very little representation of black women in positions of power, of education, and of respect. Maya's message was proof that Oprah's big dreams were not silly or a waste of time, that they could truly be a reality if she believed in their power. So, 16-year-old Oprah made a big decision. I am going to go for my dream, she thought, and no one will get in my way. Now, the powerful thing about this is that Oprah gets this realization at 16, and what I was going to read today, but I'm not going to have time for, Maya Angelou becomes what she calls her spiritual queen mother, which she talks about here in this book. But I will come back to this hopefully next week. So, you think you've had a rough childhood? Everybody has a story. What are you going to do with yours? What are you going to do with your story? Are you going to push ahead? Are you going to push through? Are you going to make up in your own mind, have a commitment to your own goals, desires, dreams, purpose, that regardless if somebody puts you outside? Many of us have been put outside on the porch. Not just Oprah. Many of us have been pushed aside for whatever reason. You're not smart enough, you're not tall enough, you're not light enough, you're not dark enough, you're not tall, you're not short enough. Are you going to let that deter you from who you know you can be in this earth and in this world? Or are you going to push past that and say, regardless of how other people feel about me, they might put me out, but as long as God is on my side, as long as I am following the direction and path that I know God has led me to go in, I'm going to be all right. A little bit of my North Carolina twang just came out. I'm going to be all right. Hashtag push past. All right. Oprah had plenty of reasons. She had plenty of excuses to not turn out the way she's turned out. She could have said it was because of my mama. It was because of my upbringing. It was because how people felt about me. But she did not let those things deter and stop her. And I encourage you to not be deterred or stopped either. All right. We're going to take a few audio guests on today. I'm going to let my Facebook Live keep playing so they can listen in to you. So if you would like to respond to any of today's mini lessons, you can join us. Where's my thingamabobby? Don't tell me it's not on here. Oh man. Uh-oh. So I may have to come back. All right. Periscope, I'm going to log off. Then I'm going to come back so I can get my conversation button on, and we will pick up the conversation. All right. Coming right back. Now my broadcast doesn't want to stop. I tell you. Stop. There we go. All right. So let's try to bring them back in and bring my conversation button on. There we go. All right. So hopefully they will see. Sorry about that. It didn't give me my conversation button the second time, but we are here. All right. And let's bring on our first responder. Good morning, Lady Barbara. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I was looking at the part when she was talking about her weight and the spiritual and finding out that it was the weight was a spiritual issue, and that we have to learn what it is that's eating us and what's causing us to kind of be, it's like not really being focused in a sense, because we allow some other things that have taken part in our lives to cause us to overindulge in things, or things that we haven't dealt with. We allow those things to kind of dictate our lives and making yourself feel unworthy. And the part she said that she didn't feel that she was feeling unworthy because of her accomplishments. So that means that you got to go and dig deeper into yourself to find out, because these are like kind of red flags. Why are they here? And yet I'm building this empire, but these are still some things that I'm struggling with. So that for me was like a good lesson. Even, this has been so powerful reading this book, because you would just never know. And then talking about her skin color, so I could relate to that, being the dark one, and they cast you to the side and they favor that one. So you know what? When we look at it, and the way you said, everybody's been through something, and so many stories can be so similar to, and you think you're the only one, but you're not the only one walking through this, because there's other people walking in. I never was put out on the porch, but I know what it is to be put out. So different things in our lives and mistreated because, you don't fit this or you don't come up. But on all of that, the people who did all of that had to sit and watch her climb. So I thank you for sharing Oprah with us. I appreciate it, Pastor.
Listen, I think you said a word there. It doesn't matter who puts you out, because if God has said you are His, He has brought you in. He has brought you in. And so I think it's, again, if we don't have conversations, if we don't want to take the time to listen to other people and hear their stories, sometimes we are isolating ourselves from our own breakthrough.
Yes.
Because breakthrough can happen not just in a church setting, right? Breakthrough can happen through a conversation.
Amen.
I often call it healing through talk. And being able to converse with somebody and realize, hey, we have some things in common. I'm not alone in this particular issue. I'll never forget my paternal grandmother telling me something similar that would happen to her. The fact that when she would go to her grandmother would make them come in, and she would make them go to a sink, and they would have to scrub their skin with this lye soap. And if you know about lye soap, it's very harsh and very abrasive. And she would literally be trying to get them to scrub the darkness off. And this was like a ritual that she had to partake in whenever she went to visit her grandmother. And so I'm glad that my grandmother, she's no longer with me. She's gone to be with the Lord, but I'm glad she had that conversation with me to talk to me about colorism and how that made her feel. And, you know, me taking that information in and saying, listen, I don't want to be a person that, even in my own community, I know we have outside community issues with people judging people based on the color of their skin, but even in my own community, I don't want that to be said of me.
Amen.
I don't want it to be, and sometimes we can do it unconsciously. I don't want to look around and all my friends, none of my friends are darker than me. See, we don't want to talk about stuff like that. But I noticed that with women and friendships. I notice when some women, they don't have friends that are darker than them.
I know people like that.
So, you know, we have to sort of look also at our what is called unconscious bias. All of us have some level of unconscious bias that we're dealing with, and we need to get conscious about our unconscious bias. And so reading that again brought me immediately back to my grandmother's story of how she dealt with colorism. I know that that's still an issue within the Black community. It's still an issue within a lot of families that some families tend to treat those who are lighter skinned better. I've also seen the other way around. I've also seen people say, hey, you're too light skinned. Or you're too yellow to be a part of X, Y, and Z. So I've seen it on both ends, right? Yes. But it's something that we do have to deal with, not judging people by their externals, but really actually getting to know people, getting to know the internal part of a person. So yeah, it's a conversation that's ongoing and still needs to be had.
That's true.
Thank you, Lady Barbara. I appreciate you tuning in today.
Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate you.
Take care. All right. I think we have Pastor Ben. Hopefully, you'll be joining us. It's still spooling, Pastor Ben. Hopefully, you'll let you come on. There we go. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, good afternoon. You're all went somewhere, but I'm going to break up. Good afternoon, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to, y'all listen to bring up the name of the movie, School Days.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen the movie School Days?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a movie that Spike Lee did. This was years ago. A movie that Spike Lee did that had the difference of color and black folks, basically. It was a college setting, but that's basically what it was about. And, you know, so we all went there. Yeah, I do with that growing up also. I'm home of saying this to my mom. Okay, you want us in the house, it's dark. You have a porch, and it's dark. Did I need to tell you that I had to pick my...
Uh-oh.
And then he said something.
Uh-oh. Pastor Ben, come back. Your sound was breaking up. Yeah, he just went out. Pastor Ben, try to come back in. Let's see if your sound will clear up. You just dropped for a second. And hopefully it'll allow you to come back in. Pastor Ben was sharing with us about the movie School Days. If you have not seen that movie, it is an old movie, but I think it's probably posted on YouTube somewhere. You probably watch the whole thing through at no cost. Usually people post old movies on YouTube, but that movie is about colorism. Part of it, rather, is about colorism. Some of it is about Greek life. Hello, Pastor Ben. Can you hear us? We cannot hear him. What's going on? Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Okay, can you hear me? Are we good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. What I was talking about was the movie School Days. That was a Spike Lee movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that dealt with college students, and you had that war going on with the darkers and the lighter skins and things like that. You know, so and that stuff actually did happen.
Mm-hmm.
Actually did happen. I grew up in that, and it actually is still going on today in some places.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also saying that I had this thing where I was put out on the front porch, and I made the mistake of saying to my mom that you want us in the house with the door closed before dark,
Mm-hmm.
but now you're putting me out on the front porch and it's dark. And I did sing Stars and picking myself off the floor. So, and also, that was something that she wrote, that she said, and something I've been saying for years. For everything, that means you're not learning. And when you stop learning, you
Mm-hmm.
start growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't grow spiritually, and that means we're dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's when you start dying, because everything is passing you by.
Mm-hmm.
It's outgrowing you, and you're just stuck right there where you want to be stuck at. You know, so those are a few things that I wanted to bring up.
She said something very powerful about when you stop growing, it's like you're telling the universe you've done all you need to do here and that you're done.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty powerful. I don't think people got that. But when you stop, you're actually saying, my purpose here is complete. And I think about how many people that they talk about who are older, who were active, right? And then they retire, and then within months of their retirement, they actually die. Someone did a study on that,
Yeah.
and talking about how even after you retire from a job, you still need to sort of keep yourself active, keep moving, keep learning different things, because many people actually die after they retire because it's almost like their mind has decided that they're done. And so we have to take a look at that and look at our mindset. Are we done growing and developing and learning, or not?
My dad, when he retired, he kept working, like doing little things around the house, repairing the sprinklers that didn't need to be repaired. Whenever I needed to do work on my car, even though I knew what to do, I would always go there and let him help me, keeping him busy. My nephew had taken over his lawn service, but he would still go to work with my nephew sometimes, you know, all that type of stuff. He's one. You know, and he's sharp. I mean, his mind is sharp, but his health is beginning to decline now. But his mind is still sharp.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's something to that. Work and continue to work. You know, don't stop doing things.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Lady Barbara says here, one of her neighbors in New York retired after 25 years and lived 2 years and then passed. So yeah, there's definitely a connection between keeping our minds in our processes activated, keeping our minds continually learning, and our length of life. Thank you, Pastor Ben, for tuning in today. I appreciate you. All right. Listen, I want to thank you for your time and attention today. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, so please go out today and be light. Remember, don't be stingy, don't be stupid, and don't be stagnant or stunted in your growth. If you see one of those 5 people that we talked about earlier, the homeless or the poor or the widow or the orphan, try to give in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't always have to be monetary, but try to be a giving person. I honestly believe what Oprah reiterated, what you put out in the world will come back to you. It may not even come back through the same person, but it will come back to you. So if I want love, I need to put love out in the world. If I want joy, I need to put joy out in the world. If I want peace, I need to put peace out in the world. Whatever you put out is whatever you will get back. Believe it. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host, Shantae Charles. Tomorrow, we will be looking at Black Table Talk, and we'll be talking about all things Black history. Thank you for tuning in. Take care, and God bless.